As part of civil society, we've also been monitoring closely the work of Suhakam and where it reflects, or at least it relates to what we do. Just as a historical background, we have seen done in the past. For example, in 1999, there was a memorandum sent to the then Home Minister. This was specifically on the call to repeal the Printing Presses and Publications Act. It was signed by over 900 journalists. And then in 2002, actually, Suhakam organized a workshop which was on press freedom. It was very interesting, and in that there were several recommendations which also reiterated the need to repeal the PPPA, among others, to have or to enact the Freedom of Information Law, to remove obstacles to journalists, administrative as well, and to make it a much more safer environment and a fair environment for the media. In 2004, there was a workshop by Suhakam on Media Council. There was involvement of journalists, editors, and civil society groups, and where there was a proposed bill, but we had a lot of discussion saying that a lot of journalists were not consulted in that process. So that was one of the things that came out of that session. We have submitted a memorandum to Suhakam in 2002, which lists out quite a lot of things that we will repeat today, because it involves the legislation, the need for law reforms, the kind of pressures on the media, as well as the public's right to expression. Last year, CIJ with other civil society groups had organized a petition, which we then submitted to the leaders of the parliament from both sides, and we also sent it to the state government, the Menteri Besars and chief ministers. It was signed by over 3,000 people, members of the public, and in there again we reiterated the need to repeal the PPPA as one of the primary issues, but also saying that there needs to be broader law reform where it comes to freedom of expression. CIJ has done monitoring for the last few years. We have included some of our reports where we list out the different violations against freedom of expression, either against individuals, members of the public, the media, media workers, also in terms of the right to assembly, where we see is very, very crucial with regards to freedom of expression. So there's been a lot of initiatives to get Suhakam's attention, because we have concluded several times that we think the whole ambit of freedom of expression has not been given enough coverage or attention by Suhakam, and as an independent body we feel that this is the one place where we feel these issues can be taken up. So very quickly, some of the things that we have expressed concern over for the last few years is political interference in the newsroom, and I think this is not something that people are not aware of, where we've seen how newsrooms are given orders, instructions, or castigated because they cover certain issues in certain ways. So that happens until today. There continues to be meetings with the Home Minister, with the editors, and in where some of these are explicitly told. There are threats against both bloggers as well as media online, a space that is fast shrinking. We thought that this is one space where it will at least be a venue for people, for critical voices, but that is fast shrinking. We note with concern there are threats against journalists, physical threats as well as other forms of intimidation. For many years we have said we are not like Zimbabwe, we are not like Myanmar, we are not like Philippines, where journalists are not attacked, but that's no longer true. We have recorded cases, in some instances, journalists with the Tamil dailies who have been physically assaulted. One assaulted to the point that he was in a state of coma for a month. These issues were raised to the international bodies as well, because this is a violation of, this is a direct threat to a media worker. We see during elections in particular, where there's a lot of hassle and intimidation of journalists and photojournalists. We have also seen how the media has been blocked in attending certain events or functions by political parties. We principally are opposed to that, because by preventing media from covering, it is denying the public right to information. We of course recognize that sometimes there are political differences, but there are other ways of dealing with it and not to block them. But we do look at it very seriously in terms of threats against journalists. We don't want it to become a trend. Censorship is on the rise, we think, by looking at figures and cases in terms of thoughts, ideas. We have documented many cases which are inside our publication. We'll invite friends also to share some of their experiences and cases. Genuine issues on governance, on administration, on party politics, issues about budget allocation are given a racial tone, and law reforms as well. And we see that as a very serious a problem, because instead of dealing with issues on their merit, they are now being given a racial undertone, and that is something that we worry will have a large impact on society, on relations between different communities. So these are some of the areas that we have been monitoring, and where we feel that there needs to be intervention, but not intervention by having more laws, but actually intervention through dialogues and also some recommendations that we have. So that is the broad situation of freedom of expression in Malaysia.
Not to be on a defensive, I think Suhakam's role has largely been, as provided by the Act, to study a particular issue and make adequate recommendation to government in this area. Even as recently as 4th of May, on World Press Freedom Day, Suhakam had issued a statement of freedom of speech, expression and opinion on the fundamental human rights, and that statement can be circulated as at least as basically on some of the basic issues. Now, one, I can only assure you that this document would go to Suhakam at our next meeting, and Amir, who's here on behalf of the complaint section, would prepare the note for commissioners to review it, and I can then come back to y'all to see what course of action that can be taken vis-a-vis whether we, host something or hold something to look at that issues. So I think it has to go to the full commission before one can make a commission statement on the issues. But I think fundamentally on some of the main issues that you all have raised, I think Suhakam has been consistent on the same statements. I think a review of the Printing Presses and Publications Act, I think that's something Suhakam has said. Suhakam has said of the removal of the ouster clause in all the legislations that restrict fundamental liberties, that there must be judicial review. That Suhakam has been consistent. Suhakam has been consistent on the repeal of the ISA to be replaced with some other more focused and directed legislation, such as an anti-terrorism or restricted form. I think those areas are there in the sort of recommendations. I think one would see in its public inquiries that the public inquiries were conducted in an independent form, and the public inquiries have had clear conclusions, whether it's Qasas Highway, whether it was the KLCC Bloody Sunday event, whether it is the Makota Charas independent inquiry, depending on whoever was the chair of that independent inquiry or the members of that commission, they have clearly established that the police have used excessive force in handling of the situation, and these have been submitted to government, to Home Affairs, to relevant people, and it is then passed on to them to take the actions.